exclusive 76ers film breakdowns over on the Patreon. Also, I'm probably going to put my Doc Rivers press conference reaction over there. Also, patreon.com/runitbackphilly. Go to the merch store. Get yourself a very nice, comfy, warm, sexy, beautiful hoodie for hoodie season, and it has a Run It Back Philly logo. You help me out as an independent content creator, and you get some comfortable, wonderful, high-quality clothing. Hit the like button and leave a comment for the algorithm.
Run it back, Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros.
We look like we're playing YMCA basketball without James Harden. Exactly. And why is that? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because James Harden is an on-the-court coach. When James Harden, and I said this last year, I said Tyrese Maxey's game went from this to this as soon as James Harden came in there and started yelling at him to go hard to the rim and started telling him how good he is and how unstoppable he is as a scorer going to the rim. James Harden got more out of Tyrese Maxey in 2 months last year than Doc Rivers did in 2 years. And James Harden, the first 4 games he was in a Sixers uniform, changed what the entire offense looked like last season. He didn't know any plays. He was just out there balling. And the team looked better in those 4 games than they have the entire Doc Rivers tenure. And then Doc implemented his offense and tried to implement his strategy, and it all went downhill. Then we have an entire offseason, and we start this season, and this is what we look like. And the only reason it worked, the only reason this randomness, this not running plays, this, I don't even think this team practices, the only reason it worked was because of James Harden's genius on the court. James Harden's half-court facilitating prowess. That's the only reason it worked. So the fact that it looks this bad, disorganized, and ridiculous without James Harden tells me the coach is doing nothing. So it is time to cut ties. It has to be time, bro. How do we continue this? How do we keep doing this? We're actually going to go back to practice tomorrow with 61-year-old Doc Rivers and try again? Really? I thought Joel Embiid... There was my Doc Rivers rant for the night. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I thought Joel Embiid had a good game. 26 points, 9 for 18 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. He had 13 rebounds. 0 offensive rebounds is a big problem for me. But, Joel seemed to be the only one on the team that could do anything. I have an issue, though. My issue is that they don't run sets. The ball sticks way too much. I completely agree with that, Eric Mallory. My issue is that multiple times in this game, I saw the offense being initiated through Joel Embiid outside the three-point line. And I'm like, how many years are we going to do this? How many years are we going to do this? How many years does the entire city have to scream, get under the rim? How many years does the entire city and fan base have to scream, get this guy under the rim? He's a center. How many years do we have to scream this? Why am I seeing so many designed sets where your 7'2", turnover-prone center is catching the ball outside the three-point line and trying to dribble it why are we running dribble handoffs with Joel Embiid outside the three-point line? It's a turnover waiting to happen. I saw it so many times this game. Joel had 7 turnovers. 7! And that's because he caught the ball outside the three-point line and tried to initiate the offense 7 times. Why are we doing this? What is this game plan? The other night, we ran plenty of pick and rolls and pick and pops with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, DeAnthony Melton, Joel Embiid. Now, all of a sudden, Now all of a sudden we're trying to initiate the offense with Joel outside the 3-point line. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Tyrese Maxey has his third bad shooting night in a row. Just so happens James Harden. Is this the third game without James Harden? This might be the third game without James Harden. He has his third bad shooting night in a row. And yeah, I've said this plenty of times. I said this last year. Love Tyrese Maxey. But anybody that thinks Tyrese Maxey is a point guard is out of their damn minds. Tyrese Maxey is clearly a two guard. Tyrese Maxey is clearly a very good two guard. Tyrese Maxey needs a point guard. Tyrese Maxey needs a James Harden on the floor. And superhero, I think you said in the chat right when this show started, a big problem is we don't have a backup point guard. A real backup point guard. And you're absolutely right. James Harden's the only point guard on the team. So we can rant and rave about Doc Rivers all we want. We can say fire Doc Rivers. This roster construction is terrible. And Romp was right. Again, Romp was right. Every time something happens and Daryl Morey signs somebody and Romp tells us all, this is bad, this is not good, this roster is not as good as everyone thinks it is, Daryl Morey's overrated, on and on and on. Every time Romp goes on those rants before the season starts and we all call him a hater or call him, why are you so negative? He ends up being right. I got to give Romp credit, man. He's right. This is not a good roster. There's no speed outside of Tyrese Maxey. There's no elite three-point shooters. Who? Name one on the team. Who's a sniper on the team? Who's a Kevin Huerter? You know? Who's a Joe Harris? Who's a... I don't know. Name another one. There's none on the squad. You don't have a traditional facilitating point guard outside of James Harden. You don't have a backup center. And this one's on Doc because Daryl drafted a backup center. And Daryl Morey should be as upset about this as I am. Daryl Morey drafted Charles Bassey. Charles Bassey was the most NBA ready player in that almost died. Most NBA ready player in that draft. He's 6'10", he's 250 pounds. He can block shots, he can rebound. He has skill around the rim. Doc Rivers says, nah, we're not playing Charles Bassey ever. Never playing him. Dan Burke played him 2 games in a row. He had 12 rebounds and 5 blocks against the Denver Nuggets in November 2021. Doc Rivers came back from COVID and said, no, we're not playing that guy. Not at backup center. Why would I do that when I can play PJ Tucker at backup center? Why would I do that when I can play George Niang at backup center? Why would I play Charles Bassey? So they cut Charles Bassey. You can't write a story better than this. You can't write a story better than this. They cut Charles Bassey because Doc Rivers, who thinks he's a genius and thinks he's on the level of Greg Popovich, doesn't want to play Charles Bassey. Greg Popovich, the actual Greg Popovich, the real one, verified, check mark, and the official under his name. You know, he paid $8 for the check, and he has the official. The actual Greg Popovich signs Charles Bassey and plays it. Last night, Charles Bassey had 10.6 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block in 12 minutes off the bench. And Doc Rivers thinks, I don't need that backup center. I got George Niang, bruh. I got PJ Tucker. I can go small ball against the Raptors. I can go small ball against Clint Capella. You idiot.